sorry to frighten you with this image of this particular individual. I hope that didn't give you a startle. I mean, it could certainly give the best of us a bit of a fright, I think. So Daniel Andrews' office defaced again. Okay, this is not the first time it's happened, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. Daniel Andrews' office here in Victoria, the Premier of Victoria, the man who would very much like to rule over every Victorian with an iron fist, he has been on the receiving end of a series of vandalism, slogans and statements spray painted onto his store. But this time we see something a little bit different where a whole bunch of signs have been put up. And the remarks are certainly not made in support of Daniel Andrews. Of course, it's quite reasonable to assume that those who are defacing his office have negative views about the man. Okay, yeah, believe it or not, there's actually some people out there that don't like Daniel Andrews. One thing we know about Andrews is that he's so arrogant that he will never listen to the critics, whether they're political opponents, but more sadly, he won't listen to the people. We've been screaming from the rooftop. That's right. Since the inception of this corona situation, Daniel Andrews does not listen. He does what he thinks is the right thing to do in terms of advancing his worldview, which I say is modeled after the worldview of the Chinese Communist Party. I think he looks up to them very much. He's seeking to change our culture and to erode our freedoms and essentially to erode what it is to be Australian. Okay, so some people don't like him. So we're going to take a look. We're going to take a closer look at this image right here, because when I'm sent an image like this, the first question I have is it legitimate or is it photoshopped? So we're going to go into a little bit of an analysis, and my position is I believe it's legitimate. But before we do, I just want to show you some other examples of the defacing of Daniel Andrews' office. So let me just start here. So here we go. We have some graffiti here. Daniel Andrews are calling for a royal commission accusing him of being responsible for over 800 deaths. Okay. We have here, sack Daniel Andrews. A pretty simple message. I think that's a fairly regular slogan here in Victoria. Okay, we've got here tyrant, tyrant scum. I'm just reading off the screen here. CCP lackey and liar. Okay, so seemingly a reference to Daniel Andrews' very cozy relationship with the Chinese Communist Party, and of course his very authoritarian manner in which he governs this state. We also saw that at one point, I believe it was earlier this year, there were several small holes that appeared in the windows of Daniel Andrews' office right there. So most likely some type of small projectile fired into Daniel Andrews' office. You can see there the tape. All right, now here's the main exhibit here. So this is the most recent one that I was sent. So what we see here is no graffiti or anything like that, rather a series of placards that have been stuck to his window. So the first question I had was, is it photoshopped or is it legitimate? So I've come to the determination that I think it's legitimate. So I'll just take you through my thinking. So we look here, you see these circles that I've made. You can clearly see the shadows, which I think match up with the surroundings, and you can most definitely see a contrast in color from sign to sign, indicating to me most likely it's a legitimate photo. Also here, what you're looking at are some straight lines that I drew in red in order to demonstrate the disparity in which the signs had been put up there. So if it was photoshopped, I think you would see less attention to detail. The signs would most probably be straight, but instead here we can see there's most definitely a difference in angle from sign to sign, which indicates to me human activity. And when we zoom in really closely, we see that the pixels match from the window to the sign. So so I'm inclined to think that it's a legitimate photo. And I think what this demonstrates is that there's a great deal of frustration out there in relation to Daniel Andrews. Of course, a lot of people are losing their jobs, feeling completely voiceless, feeling that their rights have been trampled all over. But at the end of the day, I don't really think we can hold our breath. Daniel Andrews won't listen. The only solution I see is to have this man voted out of office by any means necessary, because should leaders like leaders, and believe me, when I say leader, I say leader in inverted commas, should these types of characters become completely prevalent throughout our institutions, then God help us, Australia would have well and truly fallen. Next election, we've got the federal election. I'm giving my strong endorsement to UAP. I'm encouraging people to look into UAP. But if there's one thing you do, make sure that you put Labor, Liberal, Greens and the Nationals at the absolute bottom of the ballot paper, if there's one thing that you do. And we'll also be releasing a segment on MCJ Report really soon detailing how to vote, because it can be a very confusing process when there's all these parties involved. We're going to go through it, and I'll have a lot more to say on UAP really soon. You can count on that.